How do you actually die from COPD? COPD is a chronic lung disease that I do see a lot on hospice. And people always wonder, what is that like? What is it going to be like at the end with COPD? This video is going to help explain what you actually die from, how your life changes, and how we can help you at the end of life on hospice. So a big fear, of course, people who have COPD is, I don't want to feel like I'm suffocating to death. I can tell you, you won't. We are great on hospice at controlling that symptom. However, that being said, you likely will have intermittent periods of feeling more short of breath than you normally do. You're gonna have these like stepping stones of like the disease getting worse and worse and worse, right? And we will be able to manage those symptoms as time goes on, but you may have intermittent periods, right? A few hours where you're having a crisis, and we have to kind of come in and help manage that crisis, manage your shortness of breath. And those are the times that can feel scary. And those are the times that we will try to keep at a minimum, of course. Not everyone's going to have those experiences, but every once in a while during a disease, especially a chronic, long-term, life-limiting illness, you probably already know you have ups and downs with the disease, exacerbations, we say, where you're plateau, you're living this way, maybe on oxygen, you can still drive, you can still walk around, but you do get short of breath intermittently, then something happens, whether it's an infection or maybe your disease just gets worse for whatever reason. That's how the disease works, and you go downhill. During this downhill process, if you're on hospice, or maybe even if you're not on hospice, you are going to have more symptoms, so stronger feelings of shortness of breath, and that feeling can feel scary. And then you'll get medical intervention, they'll do things to help with that, and you'll feel better. Then you'll start going back up, boop, 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 and then you're gonna plateau, not here anymore, now you're here. And maybe now you're not driving. Maybe now you're only walking around the block, you're not really walking much because it's too hard. And then you're gonna plateau there for a while. Boop, 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 boop. And then something happens again. Either your disease gets worse just because that's the nature of the disease, or you get a pneumonia, or it's flu season, something like that. Again, downhill, exacerbations kick up, you feel more short of breath, it's kind of scary for a few hours, then you start feeling better, then you crawl back up, and it's like a stairway. That's the decline of the disease. Nothing to Fear comes out June 11th. So if it's after June 11th, you can get it on Amazon, Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, wherever you get your books. It comes in hard copy, paperback, Audible, which is in my voice, and ebook. The best thing we can do for ourselves is be prepared. In being prepared, we live better. And in living better, we die better. Anyone with COPD, if you're listening, you probably have already felt this and say, yes, that is how it goes. So once you come onto hospice, that's very end stage. You have already been having COPD for maybe 10, 15 years by this time. Usually when someone with COPD comes on hospice, they are already oxygen dependent, which means you have to live on oxygen. You live on oxygen, you carry a portable oxygen machine around, or you're walking around your house with an oxygen machine, and you're usually not leaving your home because it's too hard. Now you still can, of course, if you wanted to, and we would do everything possible to allow you to do that. But most people are like, oh, it's so exhausting. It's hard getting around, it's hard getting up and down stairs. Usually if you do leave your home, maybe you're in a wheelchair so you don't exert tons of energy. I think the hardest part with COPD, one is shortness of breath. The second hardest part is the debility, losing your independence, being able to go where you please. It just becomes too hard because it exerts too much. The good news is if you can learn about your disease, like I always talk about, education is key, and start preparing for your end of life, the sooner the better. And what I mean by that is, to me, mentally preparing and knowing that your life is going to change. You will lose independence. Maybe not fully at first, but gradually, right? And I see people with this disease day in and day out. And the ones that are able to be flexible, grow with change, ask for help, are usually the ones that do a little better. So people who are willing to maybe leave their apartment that has stairs to go to a 1-floor apartment, or people who are able to ask for help, people who are able to see that, hey, I no longer can walk without a walker. or I need some assistance in the bathroom. All of those things are hard, but if you start understanding and learning that that's a new part of your life that you have to accept, the better you will live. And usually the more peaceful you will die. As far as symptoms, the main symptom, like I said, is shortness of breath. So you will likely be on oxygen. You will likely have a nebulizer machine with usually albuterol and Atrovent to help with the breathing. A lot of times we will add morphine, liquid morphine in there to help relax your diaphragm, relax your central nervous system, to kind of give you an overall feeling of like, it takes that feeling of air hunger away. And then lastly, and my favorite really, are steroids. Many people with COPD take steroids on a daily basis, and that helps with inflammation, and that helps you breathe better and feel better, give you some energy. Now, of course, you have to work with your doctor who's going to work with your specific disease, but generally speaking, these are the things we do on hospice to help people with COPD live well and die well. If you are someone caring for someone with COPD, or you know you will be, these are some things you can expect. 1, periods where your loved one or the person you're caring for, it gets worse, right? They're gonna have good days and bad days. And when the main symptom is shortness of breath, that can feel really scary. So it's always good to, 1, have a doctor or a team working with you that you can call and get help. And 2, having things, specifically if they're on hospice, already set up in the home to help with those times when it feels like it gets worse, or on the bad days, right? You have a toolbox of things you can do. Make sure they lay down, try to calm them down. A fan to their face sometimes helps. Giving them morphine, calling the hospice team saying, hey, it seems a little worse today, can someone come out? So knowing that that's an expectation of COPD. They're going to have good and bad days, and the bad days can feel scary, because if someone feels like they can't breathe, that feels scary. But there are many things you can do, like I just listed, to help prepare and relieve that stress. 2, it can be really hard caring for someone. Just generally speaking, with COPD or not, just caring for someone 24/7 is really hard. And your loved one with COPD will need eventually 24-hour care, because it's going to be hard for them to do everyday living activities. As time goes on, they will need someone to be there. And if you are that person, make sure you can prepare yourself for that, meaning you need to start asking for help. You can also talk to the hospice company about what you can and cannot do, and if they can help kind of make a plan for when your loved one does need 24-hour care. 3, allowing your loved one who has COPD be the guide. If they want to sleep, or if they need to sleep and they don't want to eat because they're tired or they're not hungry, don't force anything. Allow them to be the boss, allow them to be the guide. Remember, as long as they are clean and safe and comfortable, that's all you have to do. And if they're on hospice and they are not clean, safe, or comfortable, that's when you need to call the hospice company to get a plan in place to make those things, make sure your loved one's clean, safe, and comfortable. So how does someone actually die from COPD, like I said in the beginning? If they are dying a natural death on hospice, it'll be just like any other person. 3 months out, you're going to be seeing that they are sleeping a whole lot more. That's very natural. So they're going to be probably asleep more than they are awake. You're going to notice that they become more easily short of breath, right? First, it's when they walk. Then it's if they just move around in bed. Then it's if when they speak, they become short of breath. We can help with that shortness of breath, but that usually means more and more medications, which usually means more and more sedation. So it's a fine balance, right, between keeping someone comfortable and keeping them awake. So we have to remember that the utmost importance is keeping someone comfortable. Once we're getting towards the very, very end of life with someone with COPD on hospice, it's going to be a lot of sleeping, not a lot of eating and drinking, just like anyone else on hospice, because their body is shutting down, and then using appropriate medications to make sure they're comfortable. And most everyone I see dying on hospice from COPD is comfortable, because we give them and allow them to have enough medication so they don't feel short of breath. But that does sometimes mean that they will be sedated at the end of life so they can be comfortable. If you have COPD and you're wondering if you are appropriate for hospice or not, please speak to your doctor. And truly, if you would like hospice, you can always just call hospice and see if you meet criteria. I always say, when in doubt, check it out.